In the previous video entitled How to Define Markers and Links, we showed you how to create a marker set in Cortex so that the markers can be identified based on the marker set that you had made. Another feature of marker set or marker sets in general is the ability to identify these markers in real time, and we do this using what's known as a template. So in Cortex you can see as a person's moving across your capture volume, all the tracked 3D markers are simply black dots. In other words, they're unnamed, they're unidentified. So we need to install or add a marker set in Cortex so that Cortex could then quickly identify these. In order to do that, we need to create a template. So I'm going to go ahead and record some raw data. Just going to hit record here. So here we're going to go ahead and load last capture. That will load the last capture that we just recorded. And so all the markers from the patient shows up here unidentified. And so in order for us to identify them, we need to add a marker set up here. So we can create one from scratch using new, using the steps that were outlined in the previous video, how to define markers and links, or we can add an existing one. So I'm going to choose this one that I've made earlier. This is a modified Helen Hayes marker set. There are 25 markers in this one. And so to go through the marker identification, you just try to choose a frame somewhere in the middle of the capture volume in which all the markers that are necessary can be seen. So first thing I'll do is rectify unnamed. That will help track the markers in subsequent frames. Another thing too is when you're selecting these markers or identifying these markers, you want to choose the frames in which you want to identify in. So I typically like to start off with all visible frames. So I'll go ahead and click Quick ID. Quick ID will then increment through each marker. So I'll just go through these real quick. And so now I have all the markers I have for this particular frame. So one of the things I always like to do or recommend is to split the screen into two, and then here in the bottom you can see the tracks of each one of the markers throughout the trial. It actually does a pretty good job. So in this case, we can choose all of them, and then you can see the frames in which the markers for this particular marker set all come up. So if you're satisfied with the marker tracks and their identified locations, you hit Create Template. And Create Template does a couple things here. It just shows you the number of frames in which complete data shows up. In this case, there's 634 frames. That means that each one of these frames contain all 25 markers identified. So 634 out of 673. This is obviously going to vary depending on the capture volume or the capture that you're using for your template. But typically you want this at a high percentage as possible. And we'll go ahead and include the current frame as the model pose. And usually I like to choose the frame in which the person is either still, if they started off in the standing position for example, or in which the left and right limbs, legs, or the arms are separated. So we'll go ahead and create template. So this has been identified. We'll save capture. Save capture will save your setup, your marker set. The template that we just made gets saved into this marker set called a .mars file. You could name the marker set however you want up here, and this is the actual name of the file. So now I've got a template. Now I'm going to go back into live mode, bring up the capture again. So right now you can see it's still unidentified in real time. So it's still going to be unidentified unless we add the marker set that we're interested in. So we're going to go ahead and load this marker set up here. So now I've loaded this marker set into this live mode. I'm going to capture it. So right now it's still unidentified, I'm sorry. So I'm going to click here on the left bottom on identifying, press play, and you can see now Cortex, using the template, identifies all the markers on this person.